Hello, and welcome to Building Leadership Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dora Mendez. I am the founder and CEO of Coach Dora LLC. Our guests will be entrepreneurs, small business owners, and community leaders that drive social impact. It can be lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be. Hello, and welcome to Building Leadership Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dora Mendez. I am so excited about today's show. I cannot wait to share it with you. I also want to remind folks, thank you. I just want to remind you how much it means to us that you tune in and you watch and you listen to our show. Season 2 has been really exciting. Since launching Building Leadership Community Podcast, the journey has been nothing short of transformative. As a champion of inclusive leadership, growth, and connection, Season 2 is all about deepening the conversations and expanding our impact. At its core, Building Leadership Community Podcast is about fostering authentic leadership and empowering professionals to build stronger, more engaged communities. Every episode dives into strategies, insights, and personal stories that help leaders navigate their leadership journey with confidence and purpose. So, if you like what you're hearing, thank you to all our listeners and viewers. And if you're new to our show, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and hit that little bell so you get notified when new content gets posted. So let me tell you about our guest today. Speaking of powerful journeys, let me tell you about our guest today, Angela R. Lewis. It's amazing the ways we connect in this digital age. Angela and I connected through LinkedIn. And I knew instantly I had to have her on my show. This woman is a force of nature. I'm going to read to you from her bio. A former pro basketball powerhouse, a coach who knows what it takes to win championships, a published author who empowers the next generation, and the driving force of the head of operations at Speaker Hub, a global platform that's helping leaders like you expand their reach and impact, like me. Angela has personally coached and mentored over 500 athletes, shared her wisdom with multiple books for young women in sports, and now brings her leadership magic to the nonprofit, education, and startup sectors. Get ready to hear someone who truly embodies resilience, finding your voice, and leading with unstoppable confidence. Welcome to the stage, Angela R. Lewis.
Dora, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for that introduction. That was really, really kind of you.
I meant it genuinely. I'm so blown away that you agreed to be on our little show. And I wanted to ask you if you could begin. We always ask every guest to begin by sharing their leadership story, their career trajectory.
Sure. So my leadership story encompasses 3 big areas: basketball, education, and then entrepreneurship. So I am 6'1", and I've been this tall since I was 12 years old. And I was really uncomfortable and very unsure of myself. And at a young age, I wasn't very confident by any means. And someone asked me if I could play basketball. It was my first coach, Luther Coyle, asked if I could play on the team. Dora, what I didn't know is that team was a traveling team. And that team gave me the opportunity to leave St. Louis, Missouri, and go beyond the places that my family had gone. And that ultimately led to me getting an NCAA Division I scholarship and playing professionally in Germany and seeing part of the world. And so after I finished playing, I started working with youth programs and also nonprofits, really opening the doors of access with college tours and after-school programs and entrepreneurship camps. And those entrepreneurship camps, when I was executive director of a nonprofit called Nifty, we ran these entrepreneurship camps. And that's what really changed my life because I started to see that there are all these people who are creating the lives that they want, and there are all these different types of businesses that exist. And that led me to publishing books and speaking, which led me to creating an agency. And through that podcast, through that agent, the PR agency, that led me to Speaker Hub. And now I'm head of operations at Speaker Hub, and I help lead our team of over 30 people who are all based in different parts of the world. So I'm very grateful that basketball opened up the world to me and helped me to meet some unbelievable people.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It's an incredible journey that you've been on. And I guess I want to just follow up a little bit with Nifty,
Sure.
because as a as a young or as a new entrepreneur myself, I could have used something like that when I was when I was younger. And there's so few women of color in C-suite roles in the US. So your entrepreneurial spirit and what you learned really I'm so glad you're putting it to use in terms of sharing with with the next generation of leaders. Can you tell us what advice you would give to the next generation of leaders who are interested in starting a
Mhm.
business, or just even asking for that promotion, or are unsure about where to take their career? What advice would you give young women?
I would say stay curious. Follow your curiosity. One of my mentors, when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I asked, like, I don't really know, should I get an MBA? Should I do this? And he said, just follow your curiosity and let that open the doors. And then be willing to have conversations and ask questions about, what do you do? How does it work? And the last thing I would say is go for it. Go for it. I listened to the audiobook Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg, and she said, this stuck with me. She said, when you get a chance to take a seat on a rocket ship, take it. Even if you don't know if you can do the role. Like, I never worked in business operations before in this way with Speaker Hub. And because I had an agency, I had the skill set, but I'd never been in a role and managed these many people before. But received the opportunity and took it. So take the opportunities, if even if you don't feel like you're ready, because you can learn anything. So just be willing to learn something new and take the opportunities and figure it out once you get there.
I love that. Sort of lead with curiosity, follow curiosity. I just think that that's just great advice. And then I want to just elevate what you said about not feeling ready,
Mhm.
because oftentimes no one's ever ready.
Never.
You know,
No,
you
no,
know, so
because you can't, you
I
don't.
don't think anyone could ever be ready, right? So I just want to elevate that for our listeners and viewers, because um if you don't take the
Mhm.
chance, this is what my business coach had told me. I'm a coach. I have a coach because I believe in it. You've been a
Mhm.
coach, but actually of like a sport. My business coach has said move with imperfect action,
Yes.
because as long as you're moving, you're advancing, and you won't know if you're going to succeed or not. You won't know unless you take the chance.
You're absolutely right. Either you're gonna learn something or you're gonna learn something. So it it makes sense to just try. And if you read a job description and you can do everything that's listed, don't apply for that. Apply for something else because you already know how to do
There's
everything.
no challenge.
No,
Yes, I love
no,
that.
take the challenge, take the risk. Every role I've ever had, I haven't known how to do it. And I think some of it comes from having played sports. And I know what it's like to not be able to make a left hand layup. But then you practice and you get better. And then eventually you can do it without even thinking. So know that you can grow and learn anything. If there's a role that you want, go after it. Go after the things that you want, even if you don't necessarily know how to do them yet. And trust that you will learn.
So I'm gonna transition to our next conversational prompt. So this is Building Leadership Community Podcast, and here I always ask folks what community means to them and how do you build it? How do you leverage community? Because as our tagline says, it can be lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be. So can you share, I mean, a lot of your wisdom, you have a lot of wisdom. Can you share with our listeners and viewers what community means to you?
Community to me means service. Find a place to serve. Find if you are looking for anything, serve and give it away. So if there's someone who's looking, I'll give you a prime example from my life. I moved to Dallas, Texas recently, and I didn't. My role at Speaker Hub is 100% remote. There is no one else in the U.S. besides me, so I don't have colleagues, and so I need colleagues. And I love sport, and so I found out about an organization called Women in Sports and Events, and I decided to apply to be on the board and to serve in the organization. Now I have friends and colleagues, and I'm involved in sport, and so now I have community, but it was through service. So find a way to serve, to get your community, and your community can fill your soul.
I love that service. Community means service. Soundbite. I love that. Community means service. So I guess I want to elevate that for a second because I serve on a board of a organization called Synergia. Later this season, we'll be interviewing the executive director of that organization, and they help children. In fact, people throughout their lifespan with intellectual disabilities and
Mhm.
the developmental disabilities, and that has it's hard, but that has really been rewarding for me.
Mhm.
But I have found that people are reluctant to serve. Um, they're reluctant to serve, or so how do we and I have found that sometimes people don't have that sort of
Mhm.
like legacy of service, or I mean, I grew up in a uh my both my parents were of service. My father was in the military. My mother was an activist. So I was going to protest when I was a baby. I mean, like so
Wow.
I when I got to college and I met people who didn't vote, I didn't understand it. So I was always very civic minded, and I was
Mhm.
surprised at how many people, didn't didn't have that connection of like serving. I mean, I grew up and that was all we did. That was
Sure.
all everybody did. So I was shocked
Mhm.
that other people didn't have that, like, volunteer, serve,
Yeah.
like so how would you sort of address that? How would you coach that? Because sometimes I had to learn to stop being judgmental because I
Yeah.
used to, like, really judge people and be like, "What's like, I don't understand, why don't you serve?" And so how do we address that? Because I agree with you. I think community is service, and, you need something kind of outside yourselves
Mhm.
sometimes to help, you're not your job, you're not,
Yeah.
just something a little bit outside yourself. So could you share, what would you do? Like if you
Yes.
encounter someone who like just is really like the service part is
Right.
not there.
I would say service looks different for everyone. Because of the life experiences I've had, it makes sense that I would serve in this way. But my mother was never on a board. My mother didn't do anything in the community, but every time someone walked up and asked for change, she would give it to them. The neighbors down the street, we were the house that had the basketball hoop in the backyard. So all the kids were over there playing basketball. Every time there were a group of kids, mom was cooking and making sure all the babies had food to eat. So service is gonna look different. For some people, it's serving your family. I'm a big proponent of take care of the people closest to you first. So you don't I didn't want to be someone out there in the world doing all these things, but the people closest to me don't have access to me. So I think it's important for us to serve, but it's going to look different and take care of the people right next to you. That's really important.
So I like what you said because it's similar to sort of what I kind of learned, which is I would have people say, "Well, I'm not a leader. I'm not,"
Okay.
and leadership looks different. And I was like, "Well, you are. Don't think of yourself. Don't you. It's good to have humility, but don't downplay the fact that here you are with me, here we are doing this thing. You are a leader and have
Yes.
confidence. And I really like that. Service is looks different and serving in different ways. And sometimes people don't even realize the kind of community they're building, the leadership they're taking, and the service they're doing. So I
And
really appreciate you lifting that up.
oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Oh,
Go
you're
ahead.
when you mentioned leadership, and some people don't feel like leaders. I used to think I was like that. I used to think that leadership was a title, the head of this or the president of that. But the truth is, we lead ourselves daily, and we're the most important person that we can lead. And even if someone doesn't have a title, you can still have influence. And ultimately, that's what determines if someone is a good leader or not. If you actually can influence someone's behavior, hopefully in a positive way, then that creates leadership. So we all have it on someone, even if it's not in a professional setting or in a, in the community. But you're leading somebody, yourself, and maybe, hopefully, others well.
I like that. So leadership isn't a job title.
Not at all.
So I'm gonna, with the few minutes that we have left, can you share with us how people can learn more about you, how they can follow you, what your social media handles are, and we will be sure to put that in the description of this episode so that if you're listening, you don't have to pull the
Great.
car over. Uh,
Please be safe. Please be safe.
if you're listening in the car, don't pull the car over, but we will add it in the description so you guys can click. So please share
Yes.
with us.
And so you can find me on LinkedIn, Angela R. Lewis. The R is very important. There are a lot of us out there. So Angela R. Lewis on LinkedIn, AngelaRLewis.com, the Angela R. Lewis on Instagram. So you can find me there. Would love to chat about all things leadership, teamwork, communication.
That's wonderful. So before we wrap up, I just want to share that again how grateful we are for you to join us today. Um, and let's continue
Yes.
building incredible community, one meaningful episode at a time. I know you and I will continue to stay in touch. And I ask everyone to continue to follow Building Leadership Community Podcasts for more inspiring content. And let's lead together. Um, Thank you so much, Angela.
Thank you, Dora. Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to Building Leadership Community. Watch on YouTube at Coach Dora M. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube at Coach Dora M. Visit me on the web at CoachDoraMendez.com. Hosted by me, Dora Mendez. Produced by Dora Mendez and Dylan Rogers. Graphics, editing, and sound mixing by Dylan Rogers.